Welcome to Fat Mess Garrett. It's Jen. It's Garrett. I just have to say, Garrett just said I look like Joe Rogan.
Only because you're wearing like a hoodie and a baseball cap.
Hi, Garrett. Welcome.
Hi, I'm coming at you live from Sedona, Arizona today.
Oh, yeah, you are. That's why your background's different. What are you doing in Sedona?
I am on a press trip right now. I know you have been on this trip before. Unilever does an annual press trip.
They stopped inviting me to that years ago. I run my big old mouth on this podcast, and they're like, enough of you.
I have to be honest, this is one of my favorite trips of like the year because it's so fun and they do a great job of basically the idea is we're with them for like 3 days and they present all the new stuff for the year to us.
From brands such as
Dove Men Plus Care, Shea Moisture, Nexus, Tresemme, all of the Unilever. It's mostly like skin and hair and like deodorant. But, you know, Unilever has, I mean, I might be drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit because I'm here, but I do feel like they're a very innovative
It's not the trip
brand.
to Sedona, Arizona that's doing it. No, you've always been a fan of some of those brands that you just shouted out.
When you get to, and the cool thing about it too is that it's not just editors, like they bring a lot of their scientists to come explain technology to us. And I know you and I both love like a interactive demo.
Oh yeah.
And I've spent the last like 2 days like doing nonstop interactive demos and they're so fun. It's just engaging and interesting and you get to hear about technology and all of that stuff. So it's always really
exciting. The products you're learning about are just starting to go on shelves now?
Yes.
Okay, so when I see you next month, like you can tell me about some of this stuff?
I mean, I can tell you about it all now because it's not, they changed the timing this year, so nothing is embargoed, whereas usually they used to be earlier, and so we wouldn't be able to talk about stuff for a while.
Yeah, but everybody's a digital journalist now, so it's like we need to talk right away. Okay,
exactly.
I don't need the whole run through of the entire, but has anything stood out to you in their product lineup?
I'm trying to think what has stood out in terms, well, one of the cool things that I love too is that because part of the trip is like, you know, you have a hotel room, whatever, they like stock your room with all the new products. So you get to try everything like on your own. So I've been like I used this really cool new Dove Men Plus Care body scrub yesterday.
Ooh.
That was wonderful. And I'm not a scrub person, but I also stood up and publicly said this in front of everyone that I don't like scrubs because they get caught in my body hair. And this one does not, which I think is a really interesting.
I literally was going to ask you about that. And I was like, is that too personal? But like for guys, yeah, if you have body hair, the granules.
Can be tricky. Yeah. And one of my favorite things about when they do the demos is that they usually will have a competitor and that we have to compare it to. And the one that they showed us for the scrub was like one of those like classic sugar scrubs.
Yeah.
That was so gross. And I was like, I would be picking this out of my chest hair for like the entire day if I tried to use it.
Yeah, the sugar dissolves in hot enough water, but yeah, they're often like a whipped, gooey kind of texture.
And they're chunky, and it's like...
A smoother person might like that. I don't know. I'm thinking of like Tree Hut and their body scrubs. I love their like jelly texture.
Yeah, those are for people that have no body hair.
Okay, noted. Like,
none.
You're not going to like my Razor-On then, but when we get to Razor-On, we'll talk about it. So what else? Do you get to like experience Sedona?
Yeah, we're actually right after we record right now, we're going to go on a hike to a vortex, an energetic vortex.
Well, you know I'm going to need to hear about that.
I'm so stoked. I have a bit of a woo-woo streak, so I'm very excited about the vortex. They have a tarot reader coming later today that we can go see. Yesterday they did like a chakra thing that I did not end up going to. Sedona's like, it's a vibe for sure. And like just it's so beautiful, the red rocks, and it's been snowing here the last 2 days, so that was been really interesting, like just to be in like the desert, but it's snowing.
Maybe if I talk about Dove like every episode until next year, they'll invite me so you and I can hang out on whatever the trip is.
I think we should just next year do like a live episode. And Julie's here too, so we could do like a 3-fer.
Someone could take all 4 of us, I bet, somewhere, and we can, yeah. All right,
totally.
I'll get on that.
That would be really fun.
Don't worry, listeners, you'll be there with us.
I think that they do such a good job on these trips. So, and it's always somewhere different every year. So that's always very exciting as well. So that's why I'm here. I'm coming at you.
And that's why I look like Joe Rogan. Well, I do. It's just the hat, is that, or the hoodie, or both?
I've never seen you in like athletic wear.
Which is funny to me because this is the thing, I was such an athlete, but I did want to tell you, you'd be proud of me. I did like an intense class this morning.
What kind of class?
P-Volve.
I haven't heard of it.
I guess it's like Pilates evolved. As you know, I'm on a 2-woman quest with Jessica to have Jennifer Aniston come on the podcast. Like, first of all, I love Lola V, but Jennifer Aniston, I guess, is an investor in P-Volve. So one of her favorite exercise classes is this class. And so Lola V was like, oh, we're doing a class. Do you want to come? And I said, all right, but I have not exercised in a year. Do not start with P-Volve, people. It's
gosh.
like, there's bands, there's a lot of core work and a lot of like balancing on one leg while the other leg is doing things with bands. There are tiny muscles in my outer thighs that I did not even know I have, or I probably used to know I have, and they have been woken up. The Kraken has been released. Like I am burning down there. So I'm in post-workout gear. That's what's going on.
Do a lot of stretching tonight.
Okay, I will do that. Stretching I'm good at. I'll do my aloe yoga. Use code FET mascara.
Pull up one of those stretching like classes and just do that.
Like one of the stretching things are really good because some of them are only 10 minutes but you get into positions that you wouldn't on your own. So totally. I'm going to do that.
Those classes are hard. I work out a lot. I love to like lift.
We know Garrett.
But my sister-in-law teaches bar. And whenever I do a class with her, I cannot walk the next day.
I think this borrowed from the bar vocabulary, if you were, the Pilates. Yeah. A lot of that, like you're lengthening out your arm length and then bringing it back. And the movements are so controlled.
Yeah.
And I'm just like a chaos agent. So like I played rugby and water polo, for God's sakes, in college. Like the most destructive sports. Like I'm not used to these really slow and like controlled movements.
Yeah.
And wow, it burns in a different way.
Oh, totally. I went through a phase where I did like reformer Pilates for like a month. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's like anytime that you have to do it really slow.
7 on a reformer? I can't even picture it.
I was like falling off the reformer. I could not do it. It was really hard. Everyone else was like so good. And I was like, I am ashamed of myself.
You were humbled.
It's that is such a good workout. That style of exercise is so.
It really is.
Because you said it's all the little muscles. It's those like.
My fascia.
Yeah. Your fascia is like inflamed right now. You have to like.
My fascia's burning.
It's
Garrett and Jenn. Welcome to our workout podcast. It's where 2 people who, well, actually, you know a lot about health and wellness, but I'm on the mic here talking. I don't even know if fascia get involved when you're.
I'm sure it's got to, because like think about those times where like you get like a Charlie horse. It feels like your muscles, but I feel like your fascia has got to react to that sensation.
Yeah, you guys come here for the beauty expertise and analysis and context, and maybe go to Joe Rogan. No, who does the workout podcast? I don't even know the most popular workout podcast. I don't listen to
workout podcasts, but I'm sure that there's plenty out there.
Let's ease our way. We need to talk back in beauty. Is there any beauty treatments? Did you get a spa treatment? Did you get a sauna?
I didn't do any spa treatments here, but yesterday it was snowing and I didn't go on. They had a hike option. I did not. I skipped it and I went to the hot tub instead and did my own little hydrotherapy session. I know you guys have been talking about bathing culture lately.
Yes, we talked about bathhouses, Julie and I.
I am such a fan of bathhouses and bathing. I've written many stories about it and I do it all the time. I've actually had business meetings at bathhouses before.
I mentioned that because that show I went to, they said that people do that.
I think it's awesome.
Wait, were you clothed?
No. I mean, I was in a swimsuit. We were in swimsuits.
Okay, you were in a swimsuit. Okay.
It was not
I don't know why, because when I was in Japan, I went to bathhouse, it was like full naked, but it was also, anyway. So you were clothed and you had a business meeting.
Listen. There are plenty of bathhouses out there where you're not allowed to wear clothes. It's like usually like the Korean style or the Japanese style or whatever. Like that's just their culture. And that's fine. I would not recommend choosing that kind of bathhouse for a business meeting unless you're very good friends with that person.
Okay.
But there's been a lot of new bathhouses opening in like New York. There's a place literally called Bathhouse. And I've gone there a few times with like people to have meetings because I also don't drink. So I feel like I'm always looking for new things
A
to do
bunch of the
that don't
people I
involve
talked to were
alcohol.
sober. Yeah. And they were like, I love that it's something social. And one of them has a tea house in it and it's
Oh, cool.
social, but you don't have to do it over alcohol.
Yeah. I feel like in terms of meetings and like business stuff, the default is to go for drinks, right? But I'm like not into that. And usually if I go, I won't drink, obviously. But I'm always looking for other alternatives. And as long as you're like comfortable with that, I mean, I also, frankly, I hate wearing clothes. So like I'm totally fine with that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But as long as you know that the other person is also okay with that, it's a great place to be. Like when I was in France at the Evian spa in the fall, one of my friends who owns a men's skincare company was like, oh, I'm in Geneva. I'm like 45 minutes away. He came over. We had like a whole sauna session. And like, yeah, we were like in the sauna, the pools. It was awesome. And it was such a good way to catch up with him and see him. But like also it was relaxing and it was a different experience and it didn't involve alcohol or food or anything like that. So I think it's great.
See this taking, I ended up after the discussion with Julie, because she had some thoughts as well. I was like, I need to get an expert in here. So I am having the guy come on. He actually started, I'm just going to give a preview right now because whatever, I'll give away this for our special listeners. He started the High Line here in New York, but he is now working with a bathhouse group that owns some bathhouses around the country, not in the United States. And what I want to talk to him about is like, why am I asking about being nude or not? Like why are Americans so behind on this whole thing? How he got into it and all of that. Maybe I should bring you in to talk with him.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what he says because one of the things that I recently wrote about was there's this natural hot spring bath in Virginia where my family is from. And it turns out to be like one of the oldest wellness spas in the country. It was founded before the Declaration of Independence was written. And back then, that was the thing. Like, it was like a community hub.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to ancient times, right? Because you would go to the springs because that's where water was.
Totally. So this whole idea of like the way that the U.S. culture thinks about bathhouses and bathing in terms of a negative thing is new.
I bet we can blame the Victorian era and the Brits. That's my guess. I'm going to ask them. Everybody got all prudish for a little bit there.
Although, honestly, yeah, it's like, but even in the UK, like, there's Bath, which is like an entire town built around a Roman bath.
Okay, we're going to get into all of this. I got to do some homework, clearly.
I'm so excited to hear that.
You should have come to the variety show with me. I wonder if they'll do another one.
I wanted to really bad. I was out of town. That's why.
Okay, well, if they do another, we're going to go together. It was fun.
Absolutely. Maybe it'll be in a bathhouse.
We could do a live podcast in a bathhouse.
I'm in.
What do you think the sound would be? Okay, I got to work on this. All right, we have a lot to... We should probably get into the podcast. Hey, hi, everybody. Welcome to our podcast about beauty culture. Yeah, let's go do the news. Okay, time for the news.
We're back. So I wanted to bring this up. I think this is really interesting about the new Kiehl's advertising campaign.
Yes.
Let me look up the exact. It's called Pubic Hair Don't Care. So I guess this is a response to, they launched like a pubic intimate line and they had images of models with visible pubic hair and they were censored.
I saw those images, and I didn't know they were censored until this new campaign came out.
I didn't really think that those images were that.
If you haven't seen them, it's like the angle from the camera was looking up at the models. It was a male model and a female model. And just like at the edge of their underwear was a little bit of hair, as it would be if you did not wax or laser it all off.
Right.
I mean, why were they censored? Did they share why?
I think it was just, they kind of blamed people's like skeeviness around pubic hair. I didn't think that the images were overtly sexual in any way. I mean, this whole idea made me think about, remember those Tom Ford Gucci ads?
In underwear.
It was like pulling down the underwear and they had shaved G's into the pubes. And like there was also that one of like the female model trimming the male models.
I forgot about those. Were like 20 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
that was like early 2000s. And
Did those get censored?
They were more censored, but they were super controversial, obviously, because it's Tom Ford. He's like, that's what his goal was.
I just don't get why these were censored. How is the hair censorable? I get you can't see breasts on social media and everything like that, even if it's like breastfeeding, which annoys me, but like, okay, where do you draw the line with nudity? But this wasn't nudity.
No, which is why I think it's so weird. Like, there was no actual nudity. It was just a slightly visible pubic hair. So now they don't have models in this new campaign, but apparently the words are made from actual pubic hair, which they haven't said whose pubic hair it is. But
right, so I've seen them. So the lettering itself, if you like look closer, it looks like a textured brownish, yellowish, whatever it is. And then if you look close, it's piles of pubic hair swept into the shape of the letters to spell out the campaign. Asking for trouble.
I mean, personally, I find that to be grosser than the actual pubic hair.
Which I think is what they were doing, because they were like, okay, censors on social media, we see you. If you wouldn't let us show hair connected to a human body in a very natural place without nudity, here it is, separated from the human, so you can't say this is sexual in any way, yet it's actually a lot grosser.
Yeah, totally.
I love that they did that. I think they were like annoyed, and rightfully so. And also a little controversy never hurts to make some noise for public relations.
Totally. I love that it's kind of like an FU to like these weirdly unnecessary rules of what we can and cannot show on like social media. Like, I find it always really weird that like men can show their butts, but like women can't sometimes, or like vice
y'all
versa.
Can show your nipples and we can't.
Well, there's that for sure. Like, you know. But like, I just think it's so odd. And it also brings up, I've noticed there's something bubbling happening about just pubic hair in general right now. Like, I mean, you wrote about laser regret recently.
Oh, I just published this last week. I had an anonymous person tell me The Cut started a new column about like beauty treatments that you regret. And I've heard from multiple people over the years that they regretted lasering off all of their pubic hair. So I spoke to one of those people and she shared her whole story. And it was basically like, yeah, but she went there. She shared, we were talking about it. And you know the model Ella Emhoff?
Yeah.
She's Kamala Harris's stepdaughter.
Yes.
She's doing a campaign with Fur, the pubic hair oil, for a different product. But when she doesn't groom her body hair and she has like underarm hair, and she just talked about how the oil like made her feel okay about the choices that she made. Yeah, it's bubbling. What have you been seeing?
Well, Vogue just did a story recently, or maybe it was late last year, about just in general, like Gen Z and is just more into natural body hair. And like, you know, there was that Margiela show last year with like the merkin, the visible merkins.
Was that the same show with the glass skin?
Yes.
It might have been. Yeah. And there were illusion draping of the clothing, and inside, that show was so gorgeous.
It was incredible. But like, one of the things that people remembered was he made underwear with merkins on the outside.
A merkin, for those who don't know, is a pubic hair wig. Yes. I feel we all learned about that when Kate Winslet told us about it, because she had to wear one in a movie.
I mean, for some reason, I did some sort of research into the history of merkins once. So if you ever want to talk about the history of a merkin, like why they were invented.
Can we talk about it right now?
Yeah, okay.
Why would you? Was this for like work?
I'm sure it was for some reason. But merkins were invented because in like the 1500s, like we're talking like Shakespeare's time, right? Prostitutes would get pubic lice really easily.
Okay.
So they would shave all of their pubic hair off. But then their customers liked a full bush. So they invented merkins for the prostitutes. That's
so funny, because now some people think that when you're getting intimate, people like the look of a non-full, like a lasered or clean.
Yeah.
And that back then the style was it's like feminine and lush. I could see that. So they'd wear the wig and then meet their customer with the wig on?
Yeah.
I have so many questions about logistics, but I'm going to leave those for another time. I've never seen merkin in person.
I don't know. I've seen one in like a museum, I think, but I've never seen one like on a body.
This is another expert I need to have on. Like, you know what? Like there's actually Fashion Institute. There's some fashion historians that I always just love talking to fashion historians. We've had one or two on the show for beauty reasons, but never got into the merkin.
They're fascinating, those guys. I mean, they're so knowledgeable. It's insane. But I also think, I mean, it's to bring it full circle, like it speaks to like our relationships to pubic hair are constantly changing, right? So like we're now seeing the pendulum swing back into a more talking about it being part of the body positivity movement, all of that stuff. I'm not sure if I believe that. I just think that like body hair trends happen just the way that all other trends happen. It's funny because there's this pubic hair thing happening, but then I also was recently told that like more men are seeking out the more clean-shaven look in terms of body hair. So it's like these things are all over the place. And for me, it just means do what you want.
Yeah.
People groom their body hair. I mean, I groom my body hair because I like the way it looks, not because I want to seduce someone else. It's more like I feel more comfortable this way. So I think that like when you start changing your body hair for other people, that's problematic. But I'm like, just do whatever you want, whatever makes you feel good.
It's true. You can't deny, though, maybe you like the feeling physically, but you can't deny that the imagery we see and the way the culture is affecting our confidence about our own body hair. Even if we're not going to get intimate with anybody, like we might just think, oh, this looks neat and tidier. I really got into this with the woman that I interviewed for this story because she was like, I actually don't know why I did it. She was like, if I think about it, I never thought that that was more attractive. She said she was a Virgo. She was like, I think I just wanted it to be like neat.
Yeah.
And which I get, that's totally understandable too. I guess some people don't feel comfortable with all the things that bodies do. Bodies are weird sometimes, you know?
I feel like there's also a hygiene element.
Well, it goes back to even what you said about the 1500s.
Totally. I've mentioned my waxing before. Like I could get into this more, but I wax certain areas of like my body because I'm a very active person and it helps me with sweat and
oh yeah,
odor
of course,
cleanliness. It just makes me feel cleaner, and it has nothing to do with how it looks at all.
That's funny. I ended up getting my underarms lasered when I was doing a lot of marathon running. And so I was a long distance runner and it started to hurt because the hair it itches against the skin and like you get chafing, right?
Mm-hmm, totally.
I mean, someone could say, well, now I probably had more chafing because I don't have hair, but like you could put like Body Glide on it and then it was fine. That was what the product was called. Now there's all of them. Well, the product that they're advertising in the Kiehl's campaign, it's not even actually like fur oil, like it's meant for the hair. It's meant for the if you groom the hair for ingrowns and the skin conditioning.
Huh.
So I guess it's acknowledging, sure, there was pubic hair in the image. This is for your skin next to the pubic hair. The levels of grooming differ. Like you might go all none or somewhere in between. You still have some, but on the edges you might get ingrowns where you shaved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like choose what you want.
Well, I think a lot of brands are launching intimate care collections or capsule lines or whatever that kind of run the gamut. Like I've seen Gillette has like an intimate line now that's unisex that has like a shave cream and a trimmer and all that, but also like an anti-chafe stick. So like I think it's cool that these brands are acknowledging that people want to do different things. And I think it's refreshing and from a body hair standpoint that they're acknowledged that they're not saying we are only offering this because we think you should do this. We're saying
it doesn't feel like the new beauty standard is everybody go shave off everything and here's a way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. The ad though, here we are like barely knowing what the product is and clearly the ad got more noise than the product, but I guess that's how the beauty PR works.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
All right, moving on. Garrett's been texting me about this literally for 3 days.
Oh my God.
Well, we've been texting a lot back and forth about the Sephora birthday party.
So there was an article in Business of Fashion last week about how tweens and teens are now, I mean, they use Sephora as the example, but are wanting to have birthday parties at beauty stores like Glossier, Sephora. And I think it's really hilarious and actually, frankly, kind of genius.
You like this?
I do like it. I mean, I do think that there are some iffy things. Like I can see like my parents, for instance, if I had brought this up when I was a tween, being a little weird about like the consumerism of it all. But it brought me back to like I said to you, I was like, in the 80s, we all wanted to have our birthday parties at McDonald's. At least I did and my friends did. I had my birthday party.
Okay, Virginia birthday parties were at McDonald's. It was the roller skating rink up in Philly.
Wow.
That's where you wanted to have your birthday party. But you need an activity. Like, it was like, what's the kid activity? What are kids into?
Totally. It's like, you can't just have a party, right? You have to like go somewhere, do something. There has to be an activity.
So why not go where they want to be anyway?
Yeah, I mean, if they're already there, they're already obsessed with Sephora or Glossier or skincare or whatever. Like, it's a cute idea because it's interactive, it's exciting, it feels special.
To the consumerism point, I have to point out from this article, we learned in one case, this was 12-year-olds, I believe. The parent gave each of the, I believe they were all girls, each of the girls got a $20 gift card to Sephora at the beginning of the party to then go shop. So I don't know that I love the consumerism of that at all. And I know from my friends with kids that there's always like this like reciprocation thing with kids' birthday parties, like with both gifts and how much they spent on the party. So that's a little odd. But another woman wanted to have, by the way, Sephora's like, this is not like a nationwide, like it's not like McDonald's where it's like a set deal that you get, a package deal.
Totally.
I'm sure it depends on the location because this one woman was saying she had a 9-year-old and she went to Sephora and was like, would you ever do anything? And they were like, sure, why not? They put together, I have to give you these questions. Why can't I think of the word? Scavenger hunt. Thank you. So the people put together a scavenger hunt, like go around the Sephora and find. I have 2 of the scavenger hunt questions for you, by the way. Let's see if you know the answer.
What are they?
I love quizzing Garrett. Okay, so one of the questions was, how many different Sol de Janeiro scents are there?
Oh my God. 12.
Yes.
Really?
Yep, nailed it. Okay, next question. Just one more. What color is the cap? This was the actual question that the kids got. What color is the cap of Drunk Elephant's Lippy Balm?
Pink.
Close. Orange.
Oh.
So they made it like, yeah, a fun moment. I think that I've said this. In fact, I actually had some jobs this week where I was speaking to executives about beauty trends. And I said a lot of people are very worried about kids getting into anti-aging and skincare. The consumerism we'll set aside for a moment. And what I said is that worries me less because I don't think they're doing it to be like, I need to look pretty. It's their crafting. It's like I did puffy paints with my friends.
Yeah.
They're doing like, let's do this 6-layer mask and wipe it off. Do they care that it's making it? Sure, their skin looks nice after. It's like fine. But it's not the same as they think they look ugly and they're trying to look prettier. It's more a fun hobby crafting moment where they can like all talk about it together and like use their hands and do stuff.
Well, I think it's like, the impression that I got from the story was not that it's like a makeover situation. Like I thought what was interesting about that was one of the parents acknowledged that there is this issue with kids using stuff that is not good for them.
Oh, right.
And so there was a service element too, where like they were learning from the people at Sephora, like what is good, how to use it, what they could be using. Like I think that was kind of cute. It was like a learning experience.
Oh my God. Do you think Boy Scouts, now I know you were not only a Boy Scout, an Eagle Scout.
I was.
What if like the new badge to get at Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts is the skincare badge?
Can you imagine if
I could see this happening in the next year? This is, I think that, because you're right. Like these products are out there and nobody knows what a glycolic acid is. And you're 9, you don't need a glycolic acid Kiehl, which I'm sure these kids were accidentally using thinking like, oh, it's serum.
Well, they're seeing it on TikTok too. And they're like, I want to use that. And it's like, they have no idea what it is or what it does. And it's like,
yeah, the mom said, they left with how to get dewy skin, and they had like a lip balm moment. So it wasn't even, if you're worried that like, oh, they're too young to try makeup, it wasn't even that. It was skincare. It's still, though, the consumerism of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I see that point. Like, especially like for so many people, Sephora's are in a mall. So it's like basically
it's also
like
a prestige store.
Yeah, it's not cheap. And I do, from my friends that have kids too, I've heard that there can be like a competitive thing amongst parents too, in terms of like what you're doing for your kid's birthday.
Now we have a parenting podcast and neither of us know anything about that either.
Yeah,
Love it. Keep going. Say more.
But it's like, so I can also see there being like a little bit of a competitive thing, like, oh, this girl had her party at Sephora, so I want to have my party at Sephora and like whatever. But
yeah. Or not even competitive, but kids like to do all the same thing. Like the cool kids are having their parties this year at X place. I was remembering Dylan's Candy Bar here in New York City. And I know it was a franchise nationally. It was so hot in the teens and the aughts to like have your birthday party there and make a little, and that cost money. Yeah, I guess all birthday parties cost money. What am I saying? Like you go to the ropes course place and buy pizza for everyone, but you also have to spend like a ticket to get an hour at the ropes course place for all the kids. Still different though. It's not a retail exchange.
I mean, but isn't it though? Like no matter where you go, you're buying something in exchange for a good or a service.
Yeah, maybe kids aren't even looking at it that way, and I'm just being an adult about it. But like the kid doesn't know. The ropes course, for example, was like my nephew had a party there. Like they don't know that each kid for the package, it was like $15 for each kid that the parents had to pay. You're right. They have no idea of that.
But I also don't think that they realize that about a Sephora party either.
Yeah. If the mom, first of all, whoever this lady is, she wins in that high school, in that middle school, gave $20 gift cards to every kid. If you got to a party, wait, you get a treat bag. You're right. You do get treats at parties too. What am I saying? I'm being like, I'm talking out of both sides.
All
right. It's just giving me discomfort.
I am obsessed with, I've always wanted to have a scavenger hunt birthday party. And so when I read that, I was like, genius. I'm into it.
So my 15th birthday, I think it was, or my 14th, my mom's epic. She's like one of those moms that puts other moms to shame. She's like a first grade teacher. So she's so good with kids and like everything, like all the activities. She put together a neighborhood-wide scavenger hunt that me and my friends had to go out like through the entire neighborhood, like on a long walk all around. And there were clues that were like hard. It was probably one of my favorite birthday parties I've ever had. And so then we were in Germany last summer this was Atlas's 9th birthday maybe, or his 8th birthday. She and I did it together for him and his friends. Like not as epic. It was just in the playground, and it was so much fun.
Oh my
Wait,
God.
Can I do this for you on what birthday's coming up? 41's next. By the way, don't cry for Garrett because now we can talk about it. He had a surprise 40th birthday at Dave & Buster's that his husband put together. Meanwhile, he was on the mic with me. I almost said to him, this was like last month or 2 months ago. And I was like, okay, see you tomorrow, because I was that girl, because the surprise party was tomorrow. And then I like swallowed my words and I was like, because you didn't know I was going. You didn't even know you were having a party.
I have never been I started to like cry.
Oh, you were crying.
You saw me. I was like
fully crying.
I was fully bawling. I was so surprised. But also because I loved anything like a Dave & Buster's thing. But it's like the last place I would have ever thought I would have a party. The Times Square Dave & Buster's.
It was so much fun.
It was the best. It was so fun. And seeing all of you guys there was like just hilarious to me and like the best.
Hanging out with Dr. Dendy, like chic, glamorous Dendy Engelman. You guys know her name. She's the dermatologist to the stars here in New York City. She like arrived. She had like a full-on fur coat, like stiletto heels. And she's and I have like popped my beer, and Jess and I were going to play Hungry Hungry Hippos, which was like this like life-size Hungry Hippos. And then Dendy walks in. It was just like, it was such a culture clash in the best way possible.
Oh my God, it was so fun. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, again, activities. Activity parties is like, especially when you're like a kid, like no one's having like a party where you like sit around and have a drink when you're like 15.
Right. And back to the point is, what are kids' hobbies right now? Whether we like it or not, skincare and beauty products they are, but also the beauty culture that we talk about here on the podcast is a hobby. So
totally.
Yeah, it was a good article.
I think it was cool because it wasn't just about buying stuff there. It was about learning and having fun in the space.
I like your positive take. Thank you. I think we should end with that. Yeah. And let's just travel out of Sephora for a moment and go to the science corner. Okay, so here we are in Science Corner. I wanted to share, I got the chance to learn more about a new cosmetic treatment that is injectable, but it is not a filler, it is not a neuromodulator, it is not a biostimulatory filler, it is not HA hyaluronic acid filler. It's called Renuva. You've heard about it, I'm sure, or you've gotten whispers of it.
I Googled it after you told me about it.
Oh, I thought you knew about it because I feel like you're usually schooling me on the latest and greatest in this kind of thing, because it actually first was used by plastic surgeons more than dermatologists. So what it is what's a good way to explain this? Okay, it's extracellular matrix from adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is fat. This is donated human fat that has been treated and has no cells left, nothing alive in it. All that is taken from the fat is this extracellular matrix. So what happens in your own body is wherever there's fat, there's this extracellular matrix and then fat cells. They all live in it. Picture a honeycomb. So the honeycomb outside is the extracellular matrix. The honey is the fat. So there's no fat cells in this, but they inject the matrix. And what happens is your body's own fat cells see a matrix and they start moving in, and like the honey fills up the combs. And then the extracellular matrix, you metabolize it, that goes away, and what's left is your very own fat, which builds its own matrix. And all of a sudden you have what is basically looking like a fat transfer, but without ever having to have liposuction to get your own fat to transfer. So for people who don't know, a fat transfer started out with like burns and reconstructive surgery, but basically you would get liposuction. They would take your fat, spin it, and inject it into other areas of your body. And the joke was always like, oh yeah, take it from like my thighs and let's put it in my, exactly. And that can happen, but it's a very intensive cosmetic procedure because you're getting full-on surgery for the liposuction. The other thing, I actually learned about this when I was doing my labia puffing story, not to make it about genitals again, with fat transfer, because they have tried it for the vulva as well. It doesn't always take. Sometimes it's 2/3 of it'll take, and you can't really say which of the fat cells will take, so the look might not be as uniform. It's not that it would move around, but it could be like not lumpy, but like it just, you're not sure what it's going to look like months down the line. So now with this, you don't have to get surgery. It is your own fat, and it's a very uniform look. So the thing about Renuva is it's not cheap because it's more expensive than you would for like a hyaluronic acid filler. And they're very selective about the injectors that can use it. So it's only elite injectors. So I'll put a link to the website so you can see. But you know what I learned? So the doctor that was there with us, Dr. Haida Hermond, do you know her? Dr.
No.
Haida Hermond. She's a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, super smart. And she was telling us all the different ways that she's been using it. And one of them is in hands. She really likes that. And she brought in a patient. We got to watch it be injected. And the patient was saying, and this was what got me, she didn't want a non-natural thing in her body. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? She thought the idea of she had gotten Morpheus because that was like nothing foreign, you're just radio frequency. And she thinks she had some fat. Well, we should do this in another episode about Morpheus and what people have been saying about what happens to them. Have you been hearing that?
A little bit, yeah.
That it also, when the heats up and fires up the collagen to like tighten, it's somewhat destroying some people's fat cells, so they feel like they look gaunt in certain places after they get it.
Yeah, I'm like very skeptical of that.
I think we have to dig into that some more. But so for whatever reason, she had never wanted to get HA filler or Botox. She had no but because she didn't like the idea of like a foreign substance in her body. This is a natural, it comes from human fat. It's like it's human substance, really. She thought this felt more natural to her because her own fat was going to be in there, and she thought the look would be more natural.
I have a couple questions.
I knew you would. That's why I wanted to talk about it with you.
One is, where is the fat? Is it like a magnet that draws fat from other areas of your body? Because I've always heard the amount of fat cells we have is static. And when we gain or lose weight, it's just because the cells we have expand and contract, right? But the only way to get rid of fat cells is like something like liposuction.
No, but they die too. So fat cells only in your body generally last 5 to 7 years. As long as your body is working right and there's still stem cells in there and you're still alive and human and making cells, you're making cells all the time.
So you can create new fat cells.
Yeah, you're probably making fewer fat cells, but also think about like an area where you think you have no fat, maybe your shins, I don't know, or even your hands sometimes. There's still the makings of fat cells of your own in there. There's fat all over the body, even if you don't have like your thighs and what we think of as the fatty areas, right?
Right.
So even if you only have a couple little fat cells, because of course you do, or the fat stem cells, they see the matrix and they're like, gotta fill the matrix. And then they like slide in bit by bit. So, I should point out when you get the injections, it looks like it's going to look right away, but then your body does some metabolizing. You have 90 days, it like goes down immediately and you're like, oh my God, what did I just do? It doesn't look like anything. But then as your new fat cells start growing, it plumps back up to what you want it to look like. So it takes like 90 days. So all these injectors have to like caution people, like you're going to think it didn't work, but just wait and your own fat cells will be filling in the matrix and it will look different. The before and afters were crazy.
That's so interesting. I mean,
the future is here.
I just think it's so funny because, especially in the context of our Ozempic culture now, people are so into getting rid of fat, but then once they see the fat's gone, they want it back in certain places. And so now it's about injecting something to remove your fat, but then injecting something else to bring it back. I don't know how I feel about this because I think it's a really cool idea that we're coming up with new technology from an injectable standpoint like this. That's not a filler. That's not a stimulatory, whatever. But I'm like, y'all.
Well, you just made me think of eyebrows. Like, we're hilarious as humans. We pluck and shave them off and shape them, and then we fill them back in with pencil.
Right.
I remember trying to explain this. I think it was my dad even. He saw me using eyebrow pencil. He's like, after plucking, and it made no logical sense. And wait, you're going to remove the hair and then put back in fake hairs?
Yeah.
I was like, but they're different. Now it looks different, which is the same thing you're talking about with the fat. Like, you're taking away the thing and you're putting it back in this way that feels more like where you want it to be and what you want it to look like.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many things in the beauty industry that's exactly what happens.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I also think it's like,
oh my God, dentures. Or not dentures, veneers.
Yeah. Like
take your teeth off and then you put your teeth back on, but they're better teeth.
Yeah, no, you're right.
This is my new podcast. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but it's literally just diving into the irony of
this and that. Or like
not this, that.
Not this, that. But it's interesting. Like, I also think in the context of the Ozempic movement too, it's like it goes back to what like we've said before, like there's going to be so many more things coming out that are adjacent, like Ozempic adjacent, right?
Yeah. This has been in the works even before that became as popular as it did.
Oh, I'm sure, because they had to create it and invent it. But like, I just think the timing is really interesting that we're talking about fat transfer, fat growth, targeted fat growth, which is really difficult.
Well, Dr. Herman said that some of the patients were Ozempic patients that had diabetes, had gone on the drug, but when they lost the weight, their faces, like you can look really gaunt.
Totally.
If you've lost a lot of weight.
Especially very quickly.
Yeah. So it can be used for things like that. It's not for tear troughs and under eyes. It's not the same place. It's like these harder places that they didn't really have a good solution for.
Yeah.
But also for these people, like this patient that I met, she looks amazing before and after, frankly. She was like a lovely woman, but she was just like, I don't want like a gel, like an HA gel, like a non-natural thing in my body. And I was like, okay.
I understand that. I just think I'm having a hard time like conceptualizing the science of this. Like, theoretically I get the scaffolding. Your honeycomb thing was a perfect analogy. But it's like, I'm also just
I borrowed that from the doctor, but thank you.
I have to wrap my head around this a little bit. It's fascinating.
Right. Because we picture it nice compartment. Like if you see what the human body looks like, we picture it all in the nice compartments like we do in the illustration. Like even as I'm thinking about it, I'm picturing our epidermis illustration where fat lays within the dermis. But like the human body is not like that. It's all a big old jumble. And when we saw under the microscope camera, where they can stain. So just so you guys, this is getting really into the geekiness of it, but to show that what's happening at a cellular level, they'll put a staining agent so that they can see where the matrix they've injected is, and then stain the fat like a different color so that you can see that it goes into where it was meant to be. And it looks like freaking chicken noodle soup. These pictures, if you're not a doctor, you'd have no idea what you were looking at. Like it's a big old mushmash of cells, and I'm sure there's some fascia in there.
Of course, definitely.
Your matrix. I think the way that my rudimentary science education has taught me that the human body and science works only holds up so far. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, I'm not a doctor. Like we picture it the certain way, and that's just not how the body works.
Totally.
The fact that somebody thought that this might work it's fascinating to me. There's like carpenters, doctors. It's not rocket science like physicists. It's like, hey, stretch this thing and like it's very physical and like it makes sense, but yet it still blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's an artistic quality to a lot of doctors, especially surgeons, that I find to be fascinating. Like I've always heard from like surgeons, like whenever you cut into a body, you think it's going to look like your textbook, and it never does. Nothing is ever where they say it's going to be.
Yeah, and that job is a hands-on job. We consider it like a white-collar job, but in a way, it is one of the least white-collar jobs if you're a surgeon.
Totally.
And some of the people that work on this stuff, like you are using your hands and you're up in there. So
I'm very curious how popular this gets, because I do think your point about hands, I can see it becoming very popular for that.
We have a friend in common that I'll tell you off mic who's getting it in her hands.
Oh.
So I'm going to I want to hear how it does there and how it goes.
Totally.
I think it won't ever be as popular as some of the other injectables, both for price and because of the elite injectors that use it. But some of the doctors we were talking to said that people would drive like long distances because they know this is a doctor that offers it, and you can go on the website and see, because they just didn't want an HA or whatever, but they really had an issue with something gone. Or like a cellulite divot, or if you've had a scar, you know how some depressed scars?
Yeah, like acne
and
scars
in reconstruction.
And stuff,
I mean, honestly, they first started using it in reconstructive surgery.
Yeah.
And just before you're asking, reconstructive breast surgery, they cannot use it there because the amount of product that would be needed to recreate a breast just doesn't work. And the doctor herself was like, breasts are totally different. Like we treat them differently because of all the health concerns there. So you can't use it for that.
So it's really just for like small areas right now?
It's for smaller areas and areas that, yeah, like, I didn't want to say the weird areas, but like things you wouldn't think that, oh yeah, some fat there would make sense. The woman I saw, she got it in it was like her cheeks, sort of.
Huh.
It almost like where you would traditionally put an HA filler, but it looked really nice.
Wow, this is really interesting.
She was like crying. She was so happy because she just didn't feel like herself anymore. And that reminds you that like a lot of these things, they're not just vanity. They make people feel good.
Totally. I've been working on a personal project lately, and I've been thinking a lot about like the mental health components of beauty, and it's huge. Absolutely. So this is really cool. I mean, anytime that there's new stuff to make people feel better and achieve what they want out of their bodies, I'm on board. As long as it's safe and, all that kind of stuff. But I think this sounds really promising. It sounds cool.
Yeah. So Renuva, I'll put links in case people want to learn about it. I think we should go raise some wands. What do you think?
I'm there. Let's do it.
Okay, it's time to raise a wand. Garrett, I love when you're on the show, like our conversations. By the way, you guys, it could be a 7-hour podcast. It's me and Garrett.
The amount of editing that goes into these
favor.
episodes is insane.
But it's time to raise a wand. I actually have 2 good ones that I want to play. So first up, we've been talking about fragrances with sparkle. Like everything's like so juicy and heavy and gourmand right now. Like where's the sparkle? So lots of people have been calling in 646-481-8182 and texting and telling us about sparkle. So this is Katie from Chicago.
Hi, Jess and Jenn. This is Katie from Chicago. I just listened to the episode where Jess requested a sparkling fragrance. And one that I recently discovered and love, have not pulled the trigger on it yet though, is called Liquid Love by Penhaligon's. It's a London brand. I'm sure you guys are familiar. But some of the notes include rose, sandalwood, and then there's this really beautiful sparkling ginger note too. And I think it definitely sparkles. It's $275. You can't find it in the States. USD for what size is that? I think like 100 milliliters. And I think it would definitely fit the bill. Love you guys. Thanks. Bye.
Love a Penhaligon's. You're right. We know about it. It's a good one. Thank you, Katie. I also got, this was just like a classic raise a wand from one of our listeners who had a product they wanted to talk about. I do not know their name because they did not leave their name, but as you'll hear, she's a nurse. And I can tell you from her phone number, she's from upstate New York. Okay.
Hello, you two beauties. I've been listening to you since the inception of the podcast and am a big fan. I would like to raise a wand to a fragrance called Maya, M-A-Y-A. It was advertised as you will get stopped in the streets for people to ask if that they love it. And let me tell you, every single time I wear it, whether I'm at the grocery store, at work, at a social function, someone comes up to me and is like, what is that fragrance? Don't sleep on it, gals. Also, I love makeup. I love skincare. I'm a 60-year-old nurse, and people are always coming to me because they know I've done research. So thank you for all you do. And now I'm going to buy the Clinique mascara that was chatted about on this episode. All right, girls, be good. And if you can't be good, be careful.
That is the best advice I've ever heard in my life. If you can't be good, be careful.
The first time I heard it, first of all, I could listen to her 8 more times. I love her so much. But don't be good. If you can't be good, be careful.
Yes.
What? I
obsessed.
laughed out loud. I literally laughed out loud in my home office and said out loud to myself, I love our listeners.
Yes.
I know I'd be friends with this person.
Oh, for sure.
There's no way I wouldn't. First of all my best friends are nurses, as you know. So that's part of it. But I don't know what your name is, but I want to talk about you and talk to you some more.
I want to hear everything that she knows. I want her to just send us a 5-hour
She also was giving me
long.
Joan Cusack kind of, I don't know what it was. There was something about her voice that felt very familiar.
Totally. Yeah.
Or a little Midwestern mom, or PETA. It's PETA's wife.
Lois Griffin.
A little Lois Griffin.
There's a little Lois in there.
What a great voice. And what a great recommendation. I looked up this Maya, that is how it's advertised. People stop you. And it looks like one of those perfume oils that I would love, my invisible oil that I'm going to get it right away. I'm on it.
That. I want to try it. I've never heard of it.
I want to change the sign off from get your beauty sleep for our podcast to be good. And if you can't be good, be careful.
I mean, I want a t-shirt with that on it.
Watch it be a really famous, I didn't look it up. This could be a thing people say all the time that I've just never heard before.
I mean, it might be, but it's new to us, and that's all that matters.
I love it. What a good raison. It's a hard act to follow, Garrett.
I know. I don't know if I can follow that. But I also have a fragrance this week.
Okay, tell us.
It is the new Eucalyptus 20 from Le Labo. It came out on February 1st.
Yes.
So it's brand new. I don't know, have you smelled it?
I did. They sent me a sample because I thought I was going to love it. And clearly you do. You're about to raise a wand to it. Go.
Well, we have talked about our mutual love for eucalyptus. Here's what I love about it. I'm going to paint you a picture. This is how it makes me feel. I feel like I'm walking into a very chic spa. The top note is very eucalyptus. It has that bite, that fresh bite to it. And it makes me feel relaxed and clean and fresh and I'm about to get this incredible beauty treatment. Then the dry down. The dry down is leaving the spa, walking back to my hotel room, through maybe a jungle or a rainforest. I meet a super hot shaman. We have mind-blowing sex, and then I can smell him on my skin for the rest of the day. I find it to be so sexy, this fragrance, because the dry down.
I need to go put it back on.
The dry down is it's I'm wearing it right now. It's very incense. There's labdanum, there's incense in it. So it has this, for me, I also got Palo Santo and kind of copal in it, which has why I get that kind of rainforesty.
This is your woo-woo side liking it. Yeah, it's got a woo-woo dry down.
Woo-woo. It is it's sexy. I will say it's not a super long wearing fragrance. It has, I sprayed it on this morning. It's been maybe 5 hours. It's fading a little bit, but I just love it. I like a fresh fragrance, but I don't like to smell that way all day. I like a deeper, kind of more layered, complex
So this gives you the
moment.
best of both worlds.
Yeah, and there's something super sexy to me about frankincense and Palo Santo and that kind of
The dry down's the sexy part. The first part is the fresh part and the spa part. I thought when I first sprayed it, it was too on the nose for me. It is the purest eucalyptus I don't actually know if it's botanically based or they used aroma molecules to create the accord of the eucalyptus, whatever it is. Well done, because it smells exactly like eucalyptus. And so that threw me off because I'm used to Le Labo doing like a twist on whatever that signature ingredient is. Like Santal doesn't smell like sandalwood. But anyway, I need to revisit it for the dry down. I just remember being like, oh, it's eucalyptus, and then it was gone. And I don't think I sniffed enough in the dry down phase. Or maybe
did you
it
put
was,
it on like your skin? Or did
I
you
did, but only one squirt. And it was just like, okay, I need to revisit. Because I want sex with the mind-blowing shaman business.
This is like what like the hottest shaman you've ever seen. This is what he smells like.
Okay. And Kapal I love, and that spiritual smokiness of those woods.
Yeah, there's just like something super sexy. I do wish it lasted longer, but I think it's like from a vibe standpoint, it's really nice. And I love eucalyptus. I don't always love it in wearable fragrance because, like you said, I feel like it can smell a little.
It's too on the nose sometimes. Yeah.
But this is like, it's unmistakably eucalyptus, but I think it evolves very well. So I love it.
I want to do like now a Google Doc of all your Razor Wands because we have them on the blog like for every episode. But I'm thinking now if we looked at just Garrett's, I want to say like 40% of your Razor Wands are eucalyptus scented. If I'm thinking about it.
I think that you might be right.
I'm going to look back at what you raised a wand to, because I know in summer you get very into eucalyptus as well.
I do.
You had like a shower lotion. You had a lotion that was.
I'm not. Oh yeah, it was the Malin and Getz scrub.
Listen, the man likes what he likes, guys.
Listen, I love a fresh, but I don't love like a citrus fresh. And I feel like a lot of men's stuff is like citrus heavy. Or
marine, ozonic, cool water, Davidoff.
Aquatic,
fresh.
All that stuff. I love eucalyptus because it has a freshness, but like an herbaceousness and a bite to it.
Heard, yeah.
You know, anyway.
Heard, chef. Heard shaman. Why can't I get the shaman out of my head?
I can't either.
Well, if this fragrance doesn't last, you could layer it over your Dove Men Plus Care eucalyptus scrubby scrub from earlier in the show.
Anyway, last night we had Ash K. Holmes come and do a live makeup tutorial for us with some hacks that she does with Vaseline, which I thought was really a cool thing. I've never done one of these before. It was a blast. But one of the hacks she showed us was Vaseline does it in a stick, like a big chapstick kind of thing. She said, you put that on your pressure points, your pulse points, and then spray your fragrance on top of it.
Oh, yeah, and that's big. I've seen that on social media a lot. That's so funny. I was just talking about this yesterday with someone, and they were like, you know that hack? And I was like, I do, because I've seen it. It's like glue for the perfume.
Totally. I'd seen it before, but I had never thought to use the stick, which I thought was a really good hack.
Because then it's not all slippery and whatever. Also, some of these perfume primers that they're selling now, House of Beau has one, Future Society has one. They're expensive for what is essentially not the fragrance. It's the thing that's meant to make the fragrance last later. Get the Vaseline stick going.
Totally.
Look at that. You did a razor wand and a tip.
We love a hack. I love a hack over here at Fat Mascara.
Love a hack. Love a beauty tip. That's a good one. I'm raising a wand. This is why I think you're going to hate my razor wand now that I've learned that men with body hair, people with body hair, I should say, don't always love a scrub. But I thought there was nothing to the Soft Services buffing bar at first. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I've seen a scrubby bar. Kiehl's had one I loved back in the day. It is so good and it lasts so long. And the shape of it, my thing with the Kiehl's one was it was like too big and you couldn't spin it around in your hand. You know, with like a soap bar, you want to be able to spin to get it going. Totally. You know what I'm saying, when it's wet.
Oh, yeah.
And also you want to be able to hold it easily to glide over your body. It's a slimmer bar. You get 2 in the pack for $20. So it's a decent value because that $10 bar lasts forever. It's unfragranced. Again, what's with me with the unfragranced? But they do have like a green banana scent of it. But I've been using the blue one, which is unfragranced. It feels so good. It's like scratchy in the best way. It's like a back scratch from a friend. Uh-huh. But without irritating. Because some of them can get too scratchy. Wait, does this happen to people with leg hair? When I get out of the shower, I could have done an everything shower. I could have exfoliated, whatever. When I get the towel and I rub it over my shins, a gommage comes off, like rubber cement balls, like the extra dead skin. Does that ever happen to you when you're like roughly drying with a towel? Am I the ashiest person alive?
It doesn't happen to me.
He's giving me a face.
I'm giving you the face because I don't know if I should admit something on air when it comes to that.
I can always take it out, but I kind of want to know now.
I never wash below my knees.
But when you dry below your knees,
Yeah, I guess
you don't
kind
need to
of.
dry. I guess not really. I don't think that's that weird. No, a lot of people don't. Like, because the soap just runs off you and you're like,
Right.
sure.
I'm like, it's like self-cleaning. But
And if you don't have stinky feet, why would you bend over and waste the time?
yeah. Although, I don't think I even dry my shins. So
Well,
maybe not.
If you're anything like my husband, no. The towel is an idea to him. He like walks out, he like dabs maybe his like ear, and then water everywhere. And then he comes to the bedroom, is getting dressed, and I'm like, the water's streaming off your back. I can see it coming down in rivulets still. Did you use a towel? He was like, he'll put his shirt on and like you'll see that the shirt is now wet because that is the towel. Are a lot of guys like that?
I think so. I mean,
I dry off. I like, part of the reason, I guess, is because this buffing action, I've noticed sometimes I think I'm so clean and exfoliated, and then when I buff and dry off with the towel, these little pieces comes off my skin, and I'm like, well, I guess it didn't exfoliate as good as I thought I had. You know?
I wonder if that's just like what you're using to exfoliate. I mean, it's cool that you don't have that with the soft services bar. That says a lot.
Thank you for keeping me on track. Garrett's like, I gotta go on my hike. Can you wrap it up here? To connect the dots for the listener, as Garrett just did, when I use the soft services buffing bar, I don't have the little pieces coming off when I dry with the towel. Thank you. I'm done.
I've also used that bar. I like it. I found it to be scratchy as well, in a good way. The first time
Did it mess with your hair?
No, because it's a bar.
Okay, it's more the gummy of the gels.
But also I feel like that one, the particles are so fine. It's like, it feels like a sandpaper.
It feels like when you go to the beach and you sit down and you like it with the wet sand, do like a little, sometimes I do that. It's like a little.
It almost like, it makes me feel like, remember those like diamond scrubs that were like big at one point? Like the really fine. It has that vibe.
But they went away for a while. And then people were scrub-averse, I think, because the whole St. Ives, like, don't put walnut shells in.
Right.
But I love a scrubby bar. And I like a bar because there's less packaging. And this one is so good.
I don't usually love a scrub bar. I think that they're kind of gimmicky, but that's the only one that I've ever used that I liked.
Thank you. Okay, you understand my Raise one. Because I don't think, even that Kiehl's one, it was like fun, but it was like, I'm never going to use this again. This one, I'm now on my second pack. Because I've liked it that much.
They did a collab too, speaking of their fragrances, with Dias and Durga. I think it was Debaser.
Oh, wait, maybe that's how I got introduced to it. Yeah, because I don't know the PR or anything, but, you know, David said they always send me whatever is new from them. And it was like a purple one with the fragrance Debaser.
Yeah.
Which it was very fragranced. And I fell in love with the texture. And then I went to buy it, but it was limited edition. And that's when I got the original. And I was like, oh, it's unfragranced, but I don't care because it's such a good texture. And a nice value. I think a $10 thing that's going to last me a month of scrubbing, done.
Well, because you get two, which I think is great. That's very
it's
rare.
20. So yeah, each bar is 10 technically. I did a little I did a little girl math on that one, but yeah. Okay, guys, be careful. No, I fucked it up. Oh my God, our Maya perfume listener's like, honey, you messed up.
She's like,
what I meant to
do that
say.
Right.
Sorry.
Should we we'll just call her Maya. Maya, thank you for your tagline.
We're going to call her Maya. Be good. And if you can't be good, be careful.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
It's your reviews and feedback that help us make the podcast even better. Head over to iTunes to rate and review us, or email your thoughts to info@fatmascara.com.
We also want to answer your beauty questions and hear what products you love. To share a Raise the One product review or to ask a beauty question, email us at info@fatmascara.
If you send it as a voice memo file, we can even share your voice on the podcast. You can also do that by leaving us a voice message. Our phone number in the United States is 646-481-8182.
Thanks so much for listening.